Hello, everyone. Tim here. Thanks for joining. I have in my unique role at NextThink an ability to travel around the country and around the world, really, and chat and talk at different conferences. There's one coming up here in about a week and a half, and you're probably going to be catching this episode maybe before that event, but probably most likely afterwards. It's Gartner, the Digital Workplace Summit in Grapevine, Texas, coming up in mid-March, and I've got an opportunity to have a really great IT person, a like-minded IT individual join me on stage, Michael Morales from Starbucks. Michael, I thought we'd do a little preview of what we're going to do at Gartner up on stage, maybe explore and expand a little bit on you and your background. Why don't you welcome to the show and give us a little bit of info on you. Let's help us get to know you.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be speaking with you in front of everybody at the Gartner Digital Workplace event. I'll give you some background and insight about me. My name is Michael Morales. Obviously, I'm a product manager at Starbucks. Never intended to be in this role, but I'm over digital experience management and endpoint management. So that kind of all of that end user computing kind of portions, behind the scenes infrastructure, all the way to what the user interfaces with on the device. So I have this weird holistic picture. It kind of goes everywhere, constantly working with engineering teams, working on with the customers all the time. So back and forth everywhere.
You know, it's interesting. The digital workplace experience used to be distributed computing, end user compute, and people really didn't have that other side of the equation, right? The employee experience. We both have that experience with NextThink. Not necessarily want to talk specifically about that today. This is more about kind of the journeys that we've taken over our careers. I know I've got a few additional years on my career than you do, so you've got a lot more to look forward to. There's exciting stuff going on with AI and automation and all kinds of neat stuff. We're going to talk about some of that down at Gartner. But how'd you get your start in IT, right? There's a typical path. Folks jump on and they cut their teeth in technology at the help desk, and then they learn a little bit and they move from there. How'd your journey start?
Yeah, it first started, I was actually going into material science engineering because where I live, Boeing is such a huge presence.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'll get Boeing to pay for my schooling. It'll be great. I'll do all of that. I'll have a career at Boeing. It'll be awesome. What ended up happening was they were doing tons of layoffs there. And so one of my friends who kind of knew me from video game retail was like, hey, you know what? You'd be great working here at Starbucks. The culture's really nice. People are really friendly. And if you just start at the help desk, taking phone calls about, store partners who have issues with cup labelers, those little things that print out on the stickers, your names and your drink order and stuff.
Yeah.
All you got to do is you get on the phone and you kind of walk them through troubleshooting some of those things and you'll be good. And I was like, great. I think Starbucks will pay for my degree and all of these things. And I won't have to worry about doing cup labelers forever or troubleshooting those. But, maybe I can get back into the road that I wanted to go down. And that is the start to a journey, because as soon as I flipped over to the help desk, tons of different things opened up. My career path just slowly started to mold into something completely different, getting my corporate kind of bearings and how you kind of interact with different people and understand. And then you hear more about their journeys and you're like, oh, that's an interesting thing over there. Maybe I want to learn more about that. The thing just kind of molds and changes. I think for me, there was a spot that happened, right with the help desk, was I started to learn about continuous improvement methodologies, right. which at the time I didn't know I really wanted them, but I needed them because I get these phone calls. I'd hear from people on the phone and they'd be like, I'm having an awful day. My printer in the back room's broken. I can't count any of this change. I'm supposed to upload this one thing or get my deposit slip in the bag. It's not working. What do I do? And I just remember being like, there has to be a better way to get to work on this stuff. There has to be a better way. And so I fell into the continuous improvement team here at Starbucks, who started giving me Lean Six Sigma tools and, Kaizen and all of these different methodologies you could go down roads forever on. And I started to take those things to heart. And I had a big aha moment here for me. This is like one of my career changing moments. Was gosh, I think I finally found what I care about. And what I care about is removing the burdens from people that they have in their daily lives, whether that's a bad, laptop experience, or, they spilt the coffee on their shirt. What can I do to remove those burdens so that they can reach their full potential? And I know how like cheesy and weird and cliche that sounds, but me just taking that and working through it and applying it and applying it and applying it, I think you can see the road that I've taken to get
Mm-hmm.
to where I'm at today, because I see what it like. As a dad, I have three kids. I got as of recording this, 6, 4, and a 1-year old.
Yeah, great
And
ages.
I know that from like the littlest thing in my day could completely throw off. And I know that that burden, I'm going to bring it home and I'm going to be with my kids. And somehow in some weird way, that thing's going to rear its ugly head. I'm going to look like a monster in front of my kids. And I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for anybody. I want them to be able to take their work, do their work. And I want them to go home and be like, man, I had a great day at work. Everything worked out, and not even think about it. They don't even need to say that they had a great day. At the end of the day, they just need to have had a productive day where they felt happy with what they delivered. And
Right.
then they can go on with their lives and do the things they actually want to do. And if that is your work, then I hope that we put you in a productive space. So I think that that was a clear cut move over into this role from that idea. And there's a little bit of journeys back and forth and learning from other people and learning about the space. But that was a huge click.
Yeah, it's interesting as I've managed teams. You get to know IT, what drives IT people, their different personalities, different styles, different likes and dislikes. And there are a rare few where we would look at them and say they've got the whole package. They've got the ability to communicate. They've got empathy, but they can go deep in technology. They can identify hurdles. They can speak about technology in business terms, in outcome terms, and not just, hey, this is a cool, look what happens when I hit this button, or look what happens when this check mark goes on. It's a different mindset. And the way you've have approached it, I think is in that context of looking at things and saying, how can I make things better? When I started at the Hartford, it was 1995. And one of my accountabilities was to join the PC build team and build PCs. And I got tremendous negative feedback after a couple of weeks. And the leader of that team would say, Tim, you're building one machine a day. The other guys are building 4 and 5 a day. What are you doing? And what I'm doing is I'm automating all of these manual things so I can do 10 a day. How about that? Give me a little bit of time. And now not only can I do 10 a day, but the guys who are doing 4 and 5 a day can also do 10 a day. So getting people to think differently and leverage automation is a really cool thing about it. The other thing that this kind of sparked some memories in the Wayback Machine for me. My career started in '88, and I was at Digital Equipment. It was the kind of the birth of the PC in the corporate world, and we were getting more and more accounts. We were servicing multi vendors, so we were doing the IBMs and the ALRs and ASTs, all the Gateway 2000s. And one of the accounts that we landed, because they had a PC in every restaurant, was Friendly's. And in order to get the account, we not only needed to service the PC, we also needed to take on their cash registers. So along your career, there are those aha moments that are the game changers. There are also the aha moments where you don't want to do this ever again. Right. And what we would get was the 2 a.m. call, the emergency call, because the 18-year-old kid at the cash register got the paper jammed in the register. You had to go fix the register at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Man.
it's that distributed computing world, thankfully, has gotten a lot more interesting, and we're not working on cash registers anymore. But it just brought back that kind of, when you think about your career journey, you find along the way the things that you really do want to do and the things that you don't. What would you describe that area of interest? It's been a very diverse career, I'm sure. You got your hands on a lot of different things along the way. It's tough to see them when they're happening, but in retrospect, as you look back over the career, what is it that has excited you about technology that said, you know what, I found that, and I really want to do more of it?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in that weird precipice change over. And obviously, changes like this, they don't just happen overnight. We've
Yeah.
obviously been seeing like AI has been coming, automation's been coming, all of those things that make me feel like, hey, why are we doing it this way? Why are we still doing it this way? All of those changes are kind of like here now, where like companies are making it accessible to change and build automation quickly. Like we're able to use AI to kind of like help us identify those issues even faster. I think that's what really gets me excited here, because what would happen is a lot of my early career, I'd be like, how do I show this problem? And it's going to take me a long time to do that well. And then to convince people in business that it's an actual problem, that takes forever sometimes. Like
Yeah.
you would be like, okay, I've got to go collect this data manually. I've got to go sit with this analyst for, 7 hours or whatever it is over the week. And then I've got to get all these call types and like go work through all these different incident things. And then if I gather all of that information, then I can finally say to the business, it's a problem. And maybe they'll give me money to solve it, or maybe they won't. And if they don't, sorry, like that sucks. That just sucks. Nobody wants to do that. And so I think
Yeah.
right here where we're at, like AI being able to do a lot of that for me very quickly, automation, being able to build those things so fast and get them in front of people quickly to meet the need where it is. I think, wow, I'm like so jazzed. I'm like getting hyped right now. I'm like, do I get off this call and just go work on an
Yeah. Right.
automation because I'm thinking about it right now? But yeah.
And I get those moments as well where I want to get back and get my hands on things. It was one of the, and I talked about this in one of my other episodes where, the hurdle of becoming a manager is I want to keep my hands on the technology too, and you can't do both.
Oh,
One of the ways of thinking about that though, it's interesting to hear that excitement about AI and automation over the last year or two. You get all of the people wringing their hands. Oh my God, automation and AI, it's going to take everybody's job. It's going to put everybody out of business. But to look at it, and I saw this keynote, it was a Gartner Symposium event in October last year down in Florida. And the point that she made was, as an artist, as a creator, author, musician, she embraced AI and automation as a collaborative partner. Why does my producer need to be a physical human being? If I'm collaborating with somebody and AI can do it so much better, embrace that as creative and not as cheating or gaming the system. I think it's a really cool, especially for us in IT, look at it as a way to not only improve our ability to execute and deliver, but do it more quickly, more securely, more precisely, and improve the experience of the people that we serve too.
yeah, I agree with this. And then I would even add on to that, like making it accessible for people to be able to use it. Like, I think it's because of the music conversation, like you're just pulling me straight into it. When I was, when I was like in high school, there was like recording music was so outside the realm of like possibility
Right.
unless you had like a computer that could handle it. Otherwise you're doing
A
like a
mixing
bunch of like
board, you needed all
physical,
the equipment.
right?
Yeah.
You had to do all this stuff and it was crazy inaccessible. And so when tools like Audacity come out of nowhere, or like you're young and like you have like this ability to, okay, now it's here. Like I can actually try to put my idea on a thing with like the worst microphone you've ever seen in your life. Like nowadays we have these podcast mics and whatever at our desks. And I'm just like, my mind is like, but, um, like the ability to kind of make that tech more accessible
Yeah.
kind of just opens up a whole new realm. When you don't have access as a musician to producers or people like sound engineers who really understand kind of like the frequencies you've got to be recording in or whatever, like you can now ask a program to like, hey, can you like look at all of these modeling like sound profiles, find me the people that like are going to genuinely be interested in this, like help me kind of design it so that it is more accessible, like you can do all of the commercialization of music so fast. And I
Right.
think that's some of the beauty of things like Spotify making things accessible, like all of that. It's 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 fantastic. AI automation. It's a whole new world. Sorry.
Even just anecdotally, I've heard the argument being made that AI could put an end to the need for some types of software and applications. Why do I need a customer relationship management application when really all I need is a database and an AI front end to give me the information that I ask for versus some kind of GUI interface where I've got to type in information and manipulate it somehow. It's an interesting thing to think about, and technology has evolved so quickly over the last couple of years. I'm curious from an IT standpoint, how do you learn? How do you stay ahead of or even keep pace with the changes that are happening in technology? Is it online training? Is it on the job stuff? Is it experimentation? And I'm curious, really, how big a part do online communities play for you? They were a big part in my career, both the agnostic ones that are just groups of people, as well as the vendor communities that can help you. How do you learn?
Yeah, I think that's such a hard question to answer because there's so much information out there nowadays. We've got, obviously YouTube, we've got podcasts all over the place. Like those things are, it's so cool how they're accessible and they help anybody who wants to know that information. It's like right there at your fingertips. So as far as like changing technologies, first of all, finding somebody in the industry you can trust and can kind of hear their opinion and start to distill it and understand what they're trying to say. That's a huge thing. So for me, obviously, Tim, you're a big portion of this. On the deck show, like we are like constantly talking about digital experience management from kind of a bigger picture that helps me kind of get a grasp on where some people are thinking, take those ideas and then incorporate them in for like training around this type of stuff. It's really like I'm really relying heavily on vendors and people who build the products to put out material that is relevant, timely, and kind of also helps develop me into the next portion of whatever that is. So, if I'm trying to deploy your product and I want to learn about it and I want to understand it, obviously your training needs to be on point. But then even past that, you've got to provide training about where your product is going, kind of bits and pieces along the way to keep me from getting lost in the changing world and whatever your direction and vision is as well. I think of, man, I think of, there's like technology podcasts out there who like are literally, they just review all of the new hardware coming out. And
Right.
I am so indebted to them because like without them, like I would not be able to spend my entire day perusing articles on the internet and like reading blogs. There was an age and a time where I could do that.
Yeah.
But like now it's like I'm listening to stuff on 2x, 3x, whatever it is, like trying to get those bits of pieces of information so that I can understand what you're trying to tell me. And then I had one more. What was the last one that I was going to say? It was uh, around vendor relationships. You talked about this.
Right.
My relationship specifically with NextThink is so like it's the best partner relationship I've had with a vendor, and I'm working with them all the time. And that relationship allows me to explore and ask questions and find knowledge so fast. Like sometimes I put a knowledge request in somewhere where I'm like, hey, can you point me to what you think is relevant about this conversation with other vendors? And it takes a month, you know? With next thing, I'm literally like, hey, I want to understand where you guys are going with this piece. It's the next day. It's, 3 hours. It's 1 hour. It's 20 minutes. It's so fast for me to like understand that. So vendor relationships, huge. Podcasts,
Right.
huge. uh, you know, the internet is crazy. You got to be careful, but like take your time to sift through it if you got it.
Yeah, in my career, there were definitely vendors along the way that you could, even as a customer, you knew the inside culture was outstanding, right? The Altiris always comes back to me as a vendor who I had the same relationship with. Great group of people, awesome, smart people, and responsive, inclusive for you as a customer into their internal community. And it was obvious when I came over to Nextthink that it was the same kind of deal. And I'm just
Mm,
happy after I've been here 8.5 years, we grew from 150 to over 1,000, and we've retained that internal culture. Our CEO, co-founder, makes sure that not only we keep that culture, but as we hire and we grow, we hire the people who can help maintain that culture. So hearing it from you and from a customer that you see it is pretty cool. Um, I know we're going to run out of a bit of time. There's a story that I really want to hear you tell, a little bit of a preview of what we're going to do at Gartner. But before I ask that, you talked about a career holy cow moment that really it lit your fire to say, this is what I want to do. What's the technology holy cow? I have a couple in my career that, oh my God, this changes everything. Doesn't need to be Nextthink. It could be any of the other technologies you work with. But I'm curious what you've seen along the way that you said, wow, this is a game changer.
I think I could be more specific than the next thing. I think Nextthink flow is crazy for my brain. Like it is, flow is that logic based version of Nextthink that allows you to put automation in the hands of people so fast. I
Yeah.
think I when I switched over to Starbucks and I was like, okay, they're going to pay for my degree. I'm like, okay, maybe software engineering because now I'm in IT, and I hated writing code. No offense. I love all of my engineers. They're
Yeah.
fantastic. They love it. They're fast at it. For me, I would miss a comma or something and it'd be hours of me just like banging my head against the keyboard. Also, AI, thank you so much for stopping that
Right.
problem. A few less people banging their heads against keyboards. But for me, like after that switch away from that, now I'm like, Nextthink flow, it literally allows me, I'm a product manager. So like I'm not as technical as the awesome smart people on my team, but like for me, I can go in and be like, I completely understand what we're trying to solve here. I can move something around super quickly. And now we can finally get these things to build out quickly in
Mm.
front of all of these people inside of Starbucks specifically, but like make life easier for people. Like I can say like I understand that process from a continuous improvement. First of all, continuous improvement, I'm like got boxes everywhere all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, the process flow is X, Y, and Z thing.
Right.
And so now I'm like, okay, the process flow is X, Y, and Z thing. And if we just make a change right here, everybody's life is way easier. So I think technology wise, those low code automation
Yeah.
like interfaces are just such a game changer. And I think even before that, with Microsoft's tool, you're just like going in and moving things around and hopefully getting the rules based right and like testing that a billion times. Like that's like, it's so amazing again, I think the theme is making things more accessible for people to be able to use and get and remove those burn-ins. Like for me, that technology, bringing it closer and closer to people who don't need to understand all of the
Yeah.
code that's in the background. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a crazy game changer.
I had in conversation with people, and it just happened. I get these glimpses of my past. It was late '90s, early 2000s. We had just moved over from Novell NetWare to Microsoft Active Directory. SMS was still like a 1.2 version, maybe 2.0. But we had this thing that Novell had perfected, but Microsoft hadn't done yet, login scripts. An employee logs in, they run the corporate part of the login script, then they run their personal login script. It maps drives, it maps printers, changes configurations where you need to. And we, as rookie IT people at the time, we had a scripting language. I think it was called ScriptLogix. I got to look it up. In any event, we were editing the login script live in the net logon directory, which replicates out to all the domain controllers as soon as you make the change. And you miss that comma or the semicolon, and it replicated out to all the oh my God, now people are logging in, they're
Oh
getting
my
errors, they're getting
gosh.
failures. I have to edit it again live and wait for it to oh, it's a mess. So the stuff about democrat, the way Pedro puts it, democratizing automation, making it easy,
Yeah.
making it a little more a lot more foolproof, and bringing so much capability. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a huge aha moment. Before we run out of time, I know you got a hard stop. At Gartner, one of the things that I can't wait to talk about is how IT, not just with tools like what we're talking about here, but what kinds of things can IT and the business do together so that IT understands the business more. It's been an IT demerit for decades that IT doesn't know the business that they support well enough. You got a really cool story about coffee trees.
Well, recently, so something that's cool that Starbucks does specifically is you get your black apron, which is everybody starts out with a green apron, and then you become a coffee master where you understand kind of and we have a way more in-depth knowledge of how coffee grows, how all of these things happen. And what that does is it also allows you to sign up for what's called an origin experience, which is they send you to one of our farmer support centers. And the farmer support centers, their job is to educate coffee farmers in the area. It's to show them and help them like build up their farms so that they get better yields. And it also is like a place for partners to go. Starbucks partners or employees. They can go there and just learn more and more about coffee, understand the agricultural part of it. Cause you're so removed, right? We're like, a lot of times our baristas are like right at the handoff point. They're that kind of last 10 feet, we call it, where
And
it
you're not
is.
talking
We've
about a
made
trip. You're not talking about a trip down the road in Seattle.
I'm not, no,
Yeah.
this is Costa Rica. So
Yeah.
I like, we have 10 farmer support centers all over the world, there's 5 in Central America. There's three in Africa. And then there's 2 kind of in the East Asia portion, kind of like, and we're there so that we can help just coffee farmers grow better coffee and develop new varietals and different coffee plants basically that fight diseases in the area and help them so that we ensure the future of coffee. That's kind of their big deal. So basically, like I get to they fly me out to Costa Rica to spend time. And it's like a ton of people. It's everybody from like the barista level to, people working in tech. And they fly you out, they put you on this farm, they walk you through it. And gosh, I got to spend a bunch of time with the head farmer. His name's Victor. And Victor, like, I start to ask him questions like, hey, Victor, like, how are you so successful out here? What are some of the tricks and the ideas, and what are you thinking about? And trying to probe this guy's philosophy, because like you don't get to just be one of the head farmers over Starbucks coffee farms just like overnight. I mean, this
Right.
guy from 6 years old, he's grabbing coffee cherries with his dad. He's understanding coffee at a level of like me from like a 6-year-old. I'm like trying to figure out how to play regular Nintendo
Right.
and like making sure that I've got my RCA cables in the right place, or that little aux thing that's got to like connect to the thing. And like, for some reason it's super fuzzy all the time. Like that's my experience down in IT. And for him, he's like 6 years old. He's like understanding coffee at a very kind of similar level. Is like, there are problems that exist for both of these two things. And you're going to learn about them, and you're going to be able to know those problems as you kind of go through your life and be able to help people kind of grow their coffee farms, if you will, in whatever you're trying to do. So that's a preview, I think, of what I'm going to be talking about. But
Yeah, it's really I love that story, and looking forward to explore it a little bit more in my life in IT and finance. We weren't flying to Costa Rica to learn about mutual funds and insurance policies. It was a lot more difficult on the brain, at least in my brain, to learn that side of the business. But what a cool connection between IT and the business that you support. It makes that technology work that you're doing really you can internalize it and make it kind of, I know why I'm doing this. It's for Victor and for his team down there. So I think that's a really cool story. And probably a good place to wrap it up. Any closing thoughts? Where can people find you online? Any parting words of wisdom?
Sure. I mean, obviously LinkedIn, Michael Morales, Starbucks is probably what you got to search. I'm not great at this, at the whole like branding yourself or whatever have you. So you could probably find me some way through LinkedIn. You know, probably my Starbucks email or whatever have you. That's MIMORALE at starbucks.com. You could probably throw me a thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just closing thoughts is, let's remove the burdens from people. Like, we can do this together. We can all remove burdens from people, one burden at a time, free up their days. They don't have to be thinking about commas in scripts. They don't have to be thinking about, whatever software update I've got to get. We can make this world a better place, even just through their IT experience.
Remove one blue screen at a time. Thanks,
One
Michael.
blue
One blue screen at a time. Actually, I would prefer 1,000 at a time, but we'll start where we need to. Michael, really appreciate you joining today. Thank you, everybody watching, for joining in. If you've got a unique career or technology story or a cool hurdle that you solved creatively, drop me a line, tim.flower@theproactiveitguy.com, or just put a comment in here in YouTube. If the content that you're watching interests you, hit like and subscribe. And Michael, again, thanks for joining, and we'll see everybody else around the next time around.